So very recently, I've been going through a very massive shift in energy, and I think that this has to do a lot with my most recent therapy session, which had me exploring things from early on in my childhood. Things that really conditioned me to be a very specific way. Specifically, the way that I approached people, the way that I approached relationships. I learned to put myself second and to put everyone else first. I learned to put all of my energy into everyone else before myself. And this really fucked me up. And what I'm realizing now, because of what I was exploring through with my psychologist, he basically helped me to see that it's time for me to take all of my energy back on myself and kind of approach life from the standpoint of putting myself first entirely instead of putting everyone else first before me. Because it's kind of like that metaphor, and I explored this actually I think it's going to be releasing this Sunday. I explored this on a podcast episode. This whole idea of if your plane is fucked and you're about to crash and those oxygen masks come down, you're supposed to help yourself first rather than taking care of the person next to you, even if it's a little innocent boy or girl. And I've done the exact opposite of putting myself first throughout my entire life. And therefore, I've just completely exhausted myself energetically. I've drained myself. I've invested into energy vampires, people that were never good for me, especially early on in my life, back in like middle school and high school. And that really fucked me up. And so here I am thinking about how I can take all of my energy back. And it's interesting because there was a point in my life, actually, probably about a decade ago, maybe even more, when I realized that things weren't the way that I wanted them to be in terms of how I was with people. And I went to my father and I said something like, I feel like I'm being used and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being taken advantage. And he said to me, stop making yourself available to people. It's so simple, but it's so true. It's 100% true, and the more that you make yourself available to people, the more likely it is that people are just going to use you and take advantage of you and walk all over you. And it's just really interesting how the dynamics of all that stuff kind of play out, and how, like, if you're unaware of what's going on, you're even more likely to get fucked over. And it's just it's very dangerous territory. And it's interesting because the positions that I put myself in the relationships that I have had in the past, more so specifically with friends, it's been, like, dangerous. Specifically, I will not name any names, but I had a friend in the past who, it was nothing but on edge, anxiety-inducing bullshit. And looking back now at the way that, like, the things that we were exploring, my psychologist and I in the therapy session, all of my relationships were literally a trauma response from what it was that I grew up conditioned with. And it's just crazy to, like, reflect on it now and to think about how, like, fucked up everything was and how I decided to approach relationships based on that. And it's just, like, it's fucking weird. It's really fucking weird. And I was exploring all this stuff with my sweetheart, and she knows everything about me. It's fucking cool. And it's just, well, maybe not everything, but, you know, we're getting there. It's fucking awesome. And so what's interesting about where I'm at now is that, as my psychologist has encouraged me to do, to take all of my energy back. Basically, what not to do is what I should do now is the exact opposite of what I've been doing my entire life. So, yeah, what not to do is to put all of my energy into the people around me, and instead take all that energy back on myself and focus on myself. And what's interesting that I've noticed, since I've started to take my energy back on myself and not so much focus on what everyone else is doing or what I think that they need, what happens is they actually start to kind of like be more curious, I guess the word is. They kind of start to be more curious, and they start to, reach out a bit more. And that's something that I've found happening that's very interesting. The less you focus on trying to place somebody in a position of trying to, be like, you need this, I think you need this, this is what I think you need, this is what I'm going to do for this, that, and the other, you're this way, why don't you be that way? The less that you approach your relationships, your friendships, whoever it is, from that standpoint, and the more you take your energy back, the more people are going to notice that, because obviously it's a matter of energy, so it's coming from that standpoint, and there will be much less of like a tug of war in terms of how your relationships are with these different people. And it's just it's crazy. It's crazy to see how everything kind of evolves, how it unfolds, how it manifests. Since I have started to take my energy back more, I've noticed that kind of like the people closest to me, like especially my family members, like they've kind of gotten curious about things. Like they're like, you seem different, like, you sure you're okay? Everything fine? Like, it's like, yeah. It's like I'm just realizing that I've wasted all of my time and energy throughout my entire life trying to, just control this dynamic of control. Which, by the way, when I admitted to, I can call her my partner, when I admitted to her that I have dynamics of control and that I need to like heal through them and everything, this goes back to my childhood. I grew up in an environment, not going to get into the logistics or the details, but I grew up in an environment that basically had me feeling like I could not be okay unless everyone else, especially my parents, were okay. And it really fucked me up because it made me be so dependent. I guess this is how codependency forms and evolves. It made me be so dependent on how they were doing, their mental and emotional well-being. If they seemed sad, if they were arguing, if they were fighting, whatever it was. And if they were doing any of that stuff, I couldn't be okay. That's not healthy at all, in any way, shape, or form. So kind of just like recognizing that dynamic and taking myself back. And just kind of like taking everything back on myself and just taking it all back. And it's just different now. So it's interesting and it's cool because it's like, oh, okay, I don't need to be all invested there. I'm taking it all back on myself. And that's what a lot of people, including myself, have not been used to throughout their lives. And it's just different to live this way. Fucking cool, it is. But it's different. And the path forward is going to be very interesting. I was telling my partner, I think it was late last year, I was telling her, I was like, listen, like, the next 5 to 10 years of my life are going to be drastically different from how the past 5-10 years of my life have been. And within a matter of like a year, I'm already seeing well into that difference. And it's just, it's so wild. So what not to do is to focus all of your awareness, all of your attention, all of your energy on other people. Just take it back. Because I'll tell you what, especially if you're trying to work with people, or if you're trying to do things with people that are not ready to kind of evolve and change, and that's been my issue my entire life, you're going to waste your time and energy, 100%, so just don't do it. Instead, take all of your energy back, do for yourself first, and just go from there. I can't say that it's simple because it's not, and it's also not easy, because when you're so used to just putting your energy into everyone else and everything else, it kind of like, just kind of like, it's like, okay, so this is different now. But then it's like, okay, and then you get used to it after a while. And then when you realize that the way that you have been is like, oh, that was really fucked up, it kind of just like balances you out and everything. So, yeah. My greatest piece of advice for everyone is to take all of their energy back, because what you don't want to do is put all of your time and energy into everyone for whatever reason that you're doing it, whether it's because you think that you can't be okay if everyone else is not okay, or you think this, that, and the other, whatever it is. Just take all of your energy back. You will not regret it. You might feel selfish in the short term, but what you're doing is actually selfish. Because the intention is just not authentic, and that's not okay. Yeah, hope this helped.